Okay, not a news flash here, but there are not a lot of Latinas working in tech fields. And if you are one of them, it can be really hard to move forward when you don't have mentors or proper support. So, how can we help you move up and stay in the game? Hi, this is Diana Burnell. I'm a career strategist here at Corner Office Latinas, helping ambitious Latinas meet their goals. Today, I am excited to share my conversation with Lourdes Murillo about how she unexpectedly found herself in tech and how she now relies on the group called Latinas in Tech to keep her going. And yes, this t-shirt, for those of you watching on YouTube, is from the Latinas in Tech group. Go check it out. And now let's go chat with Lourdes. Hi, Lourdes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's jump right in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your career in tech so far?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. I'm Lourdes Murillo. I've been in tech for the past 12 years. I've been a technical program manager. A lot of my focus has been streaming and social media applications, a strong software background, and I am a chapter leader for Latinas in Tech in Los Angeles.
And let's talk about how you got there because I saw your original background and what you went to college for. And I think there's
Mhm.
an interesting segue. So tell me about college to today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was very interesting because I actually went to college because I thought I was going to become the best movie producer on earth. Basically, that was the goal. So I actually went to school for film production. I did sound editing and I was working on the technical side of films right after I graduated. I worked with DVDs, new releases, and this was in the beginning of streaming. And so I started getting into streaming technologies in very small startup houses. I then afterwards moved over to Hulu, which was a startup then. And I was at
Mm.
Hulu for almost like 6 years. And that's when I got my introduction to tech. That's when I started to know the facets and the differences between, yeah, this pillar streaming, but it's under the foundation of tech. And I wore many hats when I was at Hulu. And then afterwards, I went over to Meta, where pretty much it brought me in to bring my expertise into Meta around anything video infrastructure. And yeah, and I was able to build and launch and bring great things to market like IG Reels, IGTV, anything video related within the Facebook products or Meta products now, virtual reality video and all that good stuff. And so it was amazing, obviously. And that's kind of like how I found myself into tech. It was pretty much blindly following a passion and then finding other passions along the way.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. And I want people to hear that because you originally started college with a passion for movies. So, a passion for movies can turn out
Mhm.
to be a lot of different things. And you took it into the tech side, or like you said, that's where it led you,
Yeah.
right? So, it's a reminder to really be open to what that field looks like. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on set, that you're going to be writing. In your case, you got into streaming. I love the fact that you talked about Hulu like it was a startup because many of us live with Hulu every day. I couldn't watch Only Murders in the Building without it. And then at a separate time, you're going to have to explain to my children what a DVD is. We'll have that conversation offline to explain to folks what a DVD is. And I'm glad you mentioned Meta, though. Tell me a little bit about Meta because you were part of those layoffs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my time there was amazing. I think that, and I talk a lot about this, working in big tech versus, smaller companies is so different. You end up falling in love with some of the culture, they're so advanced. I feel like I always hope for many Latinas in tech to be able to have the opportunity to work in big tech at one point. And I think that my time there was great. Unfortunately, it wasn't just me, it was my whole organization actually was laid off. So my manager's manager, everyone. And I would say that regardless of that experience, I was just so happy that I was able to be there and to create things and to look at people use IG Reels and know that I was part of the creation of that.
Oh, yeah. And everyone listening right now, has come across one of our reels, or will if they're watching it also on any platform and seeing the shorts on YouTube, etc. Talk to me a little bit about Latina representation at Meta, because what I think you and I have seen is that Latinas represent 2% of employees in STEM across the nation. And if that includes education, that means that there's even less Latinas actually in the workforce doing the things. So talk to me about how that looked like when you were at Meta.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I'll talk about the pillars of tech and where we are, most of us are sitting. So already 2% is a very small amount. I see it in two ways. There's Latinas in tech in non-technical roles and Latinas in actual technical roles. So you'll see Latinas in tech that are in marketing, partnerships, branding, the works,
Yeah.
legal, finance. And then there's Latinos like me that are like TPMs or engineers or data science, all that good stuff. And so that number is actually smaller. So
Mhm.
I am very happy to see Latinas doing amazing things. And a lot of them are like director of product and director of, marketing and stuff like that in tech. And then I I unfortunately still see the gap in Latinas in technical roles. I still don't really see a lot of Latinas, software engineers, in DevOps, data analysts, data science, machine learning ops and all that good stuff. And so I think that it was amazing to see a mix of it at Meta. I think as a whole, though, like me being part of a lot of organizations um and seeing the industry for what it is, you still won't see Latina in leadership roles for tech roles. And
Yeah.
that's really where the representation actually truly matters because not only these tech roles are highly important into these companies, but they're also the highly paid ones. So, you get more equity in these roles.
Yeah.
And so I hope in the future to see that.
Yeah, and there's no shortage. Well, I shouldn't say no shortage, but there are a lot of Latinas in human resources. I'm meeting them in finance, I'm meeting them in law, of course. But you're right, the actual people doing the coding, doing the engineering, hands on the keyboard, those are the folks that we're missing. So let's talk about mentorship and sponsorship, because that's what brings us here today to talk about groups like Latinas in Tech that is there to support you and other young Latinas who are trying to make their way up, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny because my experience with Latinas in tech, or at least my experience as a Latina in tech is, I and it's so funny to say, like, I started my career in like 2012 or 2013, which was not that long ago, but yet I came in and I saw no representation. And it's crazy how the past couple of years have changed a lot. I remember moving to the Bay Area scared. I was because the actual tech culture in Silicon Valley, during that time before COVID was insane.
Yeah.
Everyone's a founder. People are moving. People are speaking numbers. Like it is so crazy. It's very, very much like the show Silicon Valley. And so, um, I actually went to during that time, Latinos in Tech had 1 day. It was like an event with LTX Connect, and it was like a 1 day event dedicated to Latinos in Tech. And I remember going and like feeling this energy. And like I found my mentor, which was a Latina who has worked in recruiting for many, many years. And she
Hmm.
worked as a technical recruiter. And I remember going in and I met her right away and we clicked. And like the power of mentorship is like insane. Honestly, like she ended up helping me, learning how to go about annual reviews and getting promoted and stuff like that. And I think that that's the big thing about Latinas in tech. And what I could 100% endorse about Latinas in tech is that you go to these networking events and you're going to meet people that are going to want to help you. Like I remember going in, and I think a lot of them are kind of like me. Like, I have some information and I want to share it with everyone because I didn't have that growing up.
Yes.
Like, I come from parents, like, my parents have like a second grade education. They grew up in farms in Mexico and they came to this country, they met in this country when they were young and did not know the concept of college. But yet, me and all my sisters went to college. And even corporate America, like these unspoken rules about corporate America, no one is giving you that because you're just going in so unprepared. And what I love
Yeah.
about Latinas in tech or any Latino organization, kind of like Alpha and other organizations like SHIP and stuff, is that literally you go into these rooms and people want to help you. That's why they're there. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that you're going to get from Latinas in Tech for sure.
Yeah. So let's actually describe it for those who aren't familiar with it. We're not just describing Latinas in technology. We're talking about this group. It's a
Yeah.
nonprofit. Tell me a little bit about the different opportunities when you get involved with Latinas in tech.
Yeah, definitely. So Latinas in Tech is an organization that helps Latinas elevate in the tech space. So whether this be if you happen to work in finance, like fintech or whatever, and you don't have to have a technical role. Um, and a lot of it could be for those who want to break into tech. And so a lot of
Mhm.
the opportunities that the organization, this not-profit organization offers is there's a lot of workshop events. We have a summit every year. There's a lot of mentor. You could go to latinasintech.org and get more of the information because I feel like there's so much I'm not going to be able to fit in this
That's
description. But
okay.
yeah, it's an organization that definitely wants to bring visibility to those Latinas.
Yeah, for sure. And I will link to it, by the way. And if those of you are watching on YouTube, I am proudly wearing my Latinas in Tech t-shirt. So representing for you guys today. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about your role and when it comes to certifications, because I was really fascinated by this because I speak to so many clients and women who are trying to get ahead. And like you said, they don't see themselves or they don't have the roadmap. Like that's kind of why I'm here today too. I didn't have that roadmap either. My parents were both union employees. Uh, my dad didn't have a high school education. My mom didn't have a college education. So I was the first. So what we're
Mm.
trying to do is we're all trying to bridge the gap for those gals who are not, who are the first and who don't have that at home. Okay. And one of the things that people really want to know about is what should be on their resume and their profile, especially when it comes to certification, of which you have several. And so I wanted to see your take because some women say, I know Agile, but do I need the certification?
Mm.
So what's your take on some of the things that you have completed and how they have mattered or not mattered?
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I see it like this. I think that, there's career and there's your job. Those are two very different things. And so, for example, when I was part of the meta layoff, I took some time away to Europe. And I feel very privileged for that. I had my eat, pray, and love moment. Um,
Yeah.
and so,
What a good millennial. Thank you very much.
exactly. And I remember getting so much advice around being able to divide those two things. What is your career? What is your job? And I think for a long time, I would mix both of them. I would get a lot of my value, and I was wrong,
Mm,
and it
mhm.
wasn't helping me out. And I remember during that time, before I decided to become a consultant, and before I decided to do a lot of like freelance work and contract work, was me trying to figure myself out. And I love to, if I could share one thing with all the Latinas out there is, and I know that this is very old school of me because my mom used to tell me this all the time, is the more educated you are, the more confident you will be. And I think that I went back to that. And what I love about certifications, and I think everyone should get certified, I think we're living at a time where, a lot of people are being impacted by layoffs. A lot of people are going through a lot right now in this economy. And it just doesn't hurt to invest more in yourself.
And there is an old
Mhm.
saying, if you don't invest in yourself, why would somebody else? And so
Oh,
that's exactly, you like that?
I love that. I love
That's my gift to you. No, but that's really true. I mean, especially those of us who are consultants, we have to invest in ourselves to keep getting ahead. And that's why other women who are in your space need to look at what resources they have. If they're lucky that they're at a company or that they've had connections in college and throughout their family, then that's helpful. But wherever you might lack, I think what you're saying is it's for two reasons. It's for the content of what you're learning, but it's also
it.
for the confidence. And
Mm-mm.
that's something that is irreplaceable. You can't buy confidence. You have to really feel it and earn it. And if a certification helps you, so be it. And then if the classes are online, you might not have the same networking opportunities, but there could be outcomes from those classes that you meet other people. We used to meet in person.
Yeah, I miss those days.
But there are other things like title and conferences and professional development opportunities. And so if you don't know that that's an option for you, how else do you
Mhm,
find out unless you are investigating with other people? And the other thing I remind folks of too is we got to get comfortable talking about this stuff. Like,
mhm,
we got to get comfortable talking about money and titles and talking not just with our friends, but at the office. There's nothing wrong with
mhm,
talking to your boss about your career year round. It's not like you want to
mhm,
talk to them about it every day, or her, I
mhm.
should say. But don't wait for your performance review to have some of these conversations. Create your own quarterly check-ins. And so I'm wondering if you found some type of conversation with your managers to be particularly helpful. Did you have to go seek it out still?
Yeah, it's funny because I not only my managers, I really had to talk to my team members and people that wanted the same things that I wanted. Because I didn't even know what to ask when I began my career. Like I didn't know there was levels. It in tech it's so different too. You have IC levels and all these certain things where it's like, and also when you're asking, for example, for a promotion, you have to do kind of like a business case for that promotion. It's so weird. It doesn't go by merit. And so like there's all these unsaid things in big tech that are so different than regular corporate America that it really took actually, and I like I'm just gonna say this. I thank God that I've had, female managers that have been literally like leaders and mentors that I needed in my life to really be honest with me around this is what you actually need to do to get promoted or to get where you're trying to go to.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of it is never be afraid of management. By the end of the day, I mean, they're kind of getting paid to like help you out, so it's like, yeah,
Yeah. And they have to be the ones to support you. So building that
exactly.
relationship is key. And one of the things that you also just touched on here is sort of breaking through on what you don't know, admitting that you don't know
Mm,
something, which I know is really hard for
yes.
people, especially in tech where you're moving fast and everyone's a hotshot. Everyone went to certain
Yeah.
schools and they're all moving fast and they've got their great experience. And sometimes it's hard to raise your hand and say, "Oh, I don't know this."
Oh my
But
God.
yeah,
I was going to give you an example of something like that recently happened to me because I am a big advocate, and thank you so much for bringing this up. Is so right now that I work with the young brands, I do a lot of machine learning ops. And so I went in with no data, just a little bit of like a data information. I knew how to do um, kind of like data storytelling, presenting data insights to management. And I go into a place where they're expecting you to do, machine learning operations, large language models, everything AI pretty much is, right? And so I remember walking in and like it felt like a mountain. And I was like, this is gonna be a mountain of I don't knows. And I remember, and that's what I tell people, there's going to be someone that's going to want to help you out. I remember going to a coworker and saying, like, I don't even understand the language. Like, I don't know. This is very different than just general software lifecycle. What should I know first? What should I do? And literally right away, they were like, do this, do this, do that. One person I'm going to plug in, Gilda Alvarez actually owns Latinas in Data, and it's an organization. And I remember, like, I don't know how I found her, and I jump on a call with her, and I'm like, you need to tell me what classes, what do I need to learn now? It was like overnight, I need to have a crash course of Gen AI, machine learning, anything data related, and like she literally led me in the right direction. And all of this just because even though I was afraid, I decided to say, I just don't know.
yeah, yeah, and that's just it. We have to get over our own egos first and admit that we
Mm,
don't know something. You don't have to tell all 2,000 people in the company, but you have to go to someone to try and
yeah.
figure it out, because if you don't acknowledge that you have a gap, how are you supposed to bridge that gap? How are you supposed to get to the
Mm,
next level? And I think that's hard for all of us. I know sometimes in Latina families, it's kind of like there's such high expectations and you want to
mm,
deliver, and admitting failure or admitting that we don't know something, that gets in the way of move, got to go fast, got to get things done, right? High expectations.
mhm,
But we do have to give ourselves a little bit of grace, right?
mhm,
Don't beat ourselves up and say it's okay to not know this particular language. So good for you, because a lot of women, I think, would have like tried to figure it out on their own. And there's something to be said for that too. But if there is a resource out there that's going to help accelerate things for you, so you don't have to figure it out for 20 hours by yourself, at least have
Yeah.
someone guide you in the right direction.
Oh, yeah. I think the differences with Latinas and what I've noticed in the conversation that I have a lot with so many groups is because of our culture, we were raised to be very accommodating and not putting ourselves first. Because that is very looked at, very selfish thing to do. But we don't know that subconsciously it's setting us up to kind of fail. And, because in our culture, it's like, you serve your uncles, you serve your dad, you're serving everyone, you're serving your community, and you put yourself last. And I think a lot of it is you have to deconstruct that a little bit because we have to find a way. And I know I did to find a way of like, how do I put myself first without feeling guilty about it? But how do I do it in a way where I show up for myself in these spaces, especially in these spaces where there's not a lot of other Latinas or Latinos, these spaces where you feel like you're so siloed and you're just so like, you're fighting some battles by yourself. And a lot of it is we're going from a community based culture to a very individualistic working place. And so I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is kind of, I don't know. I think for me, a lot of it was like therapy and having a village and hanging out with other Latinas and having these conversations. And, a lot of that is going to help you out in your career.
Yeah, and that's what we do in some of these groups and some of this podcast and some of the groups that you and I get together. When you
Okay.
hear that someone else has the same experience, I often say we all have the same mother. We all have the same tia, we all
Yeah.
have the same family dynamics in some way or another. And it's a matter of embracing what works for you. We had a great
Yeah.
episode on Marianismo. Remember, you and I talked about
Oh
Marianismo, I
my
think, right?
God. That is so awesome. You had an episode about that?
Yes, yes, go back and check it out. We did a whole episode with Patty Delgado, and she talks about Marianismo, and she says, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's not exactly what she said, but there
Mhm.
are wonderful traits about Marianismo, having good, strong family values and,
Yeah.
being gregarious and collaborating with other people. But she said, just don't hold on to what no
Mhm.
longer serves you. And when you
Yeah.
talked about putting other people first, there can be a time and place where we put our family first, right? But there's
Mhm.
got to be enough time and place to put ourselves first. Because if we don't start putting ourselves first, guess what? Then there's nothing left. Because when those folks are gone, then we're sitting around saying, okay, well, I'm in this mediocre job because I never pushed it because I was too busy being the caretaker, or I
Mhm.
never pushed it because I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to be away from family. But
Mhm.
it's okay to do those things. And so you really have
Mhm.
to explore just those traits of what serves us and what no longer serves us. And just, we got to also detach from it. Like, we can't obsess all day about what our mothers did or did not do, what they did or didn't say, how we were raised. We
Yeah.
acknowledge it and we take what worked and that hard work ethic, which I know we all have, and then we
Mhm.
apply the best of it. And then, we just celebrate the holidays and move on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Exactly what you said. It's like you kind of take note of it. And a lot of it is, okay, I'm aware that there's these parts of me that are natural, that might come out natural, but what can I do still with these parts of me? It's kind of like learning how to be friends with your trauma. It's like I get that this is here, but how can I still show up for myself? How can I still move forward with the version that I want to be?
That's exactly what we talked about. I'm looking up that episode as we speak. So you can go back and see that we talked about Marianismo. Oh, there it is, 406. You can go back to the
Mhm.
podcast and check out Marianismo. And Patty Delgado is amazing. And she and I actually have some plans to do something in the beginning of the new year because, look, let's face it, the stats are not lining up for us. The trend is not
Yeah.
our friend. Only 2% of the people in STEM are Latinas. And as you said, that represents a wide range of duties.
Yeah.
So we need women in engineering. We need women in all these tech sides.
Mhm.
And as we've talked about here as well, that Latinas only represent 1% of C-suite level jobs. So we just, we have to keep at it, and
Yeah.
we have to be in community with one another. That way we can support each other to get over these hurdles. So what I want to ask you then is if you've got someone who's maybe, just out of college, they're at their first job, what do you want to tell them about forging their career in tech?
Such a good question. Um, and I want to, before I answer that, I want to add on that, like, part that I am scared that these layoffs really push that 2%, maybe a little bit more back, but we're not going to see the numbers until like 2024 reports come out or 2025 reports come out. Um, but what would I say to a person that just graduated from college? I think a lot of it is be careful who you get your advice from. I feel like anyone can have a microphone. And I wish I would have known,
Yeah, microphone in hand, right here.
anyone can have a microphone. I mean, look at the elections, anyone can have a microphone. And I think that when I started, I thought that the loudest person in the room was the smartest person in the room. I think in tech is a little bit different. I think in tech is usually the quietest person happens to have the pedigree and the accolades that you are going to want to have one day. And I think that a lot of it is research people that are
Mm,
already living the life or living the career that you want and talk to them. And because there are so many people in tech that are like, their side thing is traveling the world or they do this other thing. And if that's something that interests you, talk to them. I think that it's very important who you get your advice from, because especially when you're younger, you at this point don't know, you're a sponge. I think if I were to be talking to a young Latina that wants to go into a tech related role is, um, you know, get educated, allow yourself to get certified, even if you have to go back. Look, I'm going back and so I have a master's, I have an MS in business, but I'm actually going back to get an MS in software engineering. And so I think a lot of it is a lot of the Latinas that find themselves like me, who got into tech without having a STEM degree or anything in that sort, don't be
mhm.
afraid of going back and getting that. Don't be afraid of, if you want to restart your career and jump into tech. I think that I get it. A lot of people want shortcuts, but I think in any career or in any vertical, you are going to go more prepared if you get educated. And I think that is very, very important. And that's the advice I would give someone is, you know, do what you have to do to go to these rooms prepared. Because I think the more prepared you are, the less imposter syndrome you're going to deal with.
Yeah, and I also want to advocate for what you touched on briefly for the women who have been at it for a while, who are maybe in their mid 30s or 40, and maybe they were part of a layoff, or maybe they don't see a lot of movement in their current company. We need you to hang in there. We need you
Yeah.
to do your best to really, give it one more shot, get the help that you need, talk to other people, talk to us, talk to Lourdes, because
Hmm.
otherwise there's going to be a whole nother generation of young women coming and they're not going to be there. Those managers, you wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah.
If you took a sidestep right now. So I know that's hard to hear, especially if you've been in the workforce for 20 years and you don't feel
Mhm.
like it's been rewarding. And I certainly don't want people to stay at toxic jobs or jobs where they know there's a dead end. But, if you're
Mhm.
feeling kind of on the fence, make sure you explore all possibilities. And maybe it's not that company, maybe it's another one. But if you can stay in STEM, there's one more Latina in STEM. And I think
Yeah.
of all the ways that we need you there for technology, for healthcare, and everything else that
Mhm.
I touch, my phone, my tablet, and all the things that we're doing, like you said with AI. We need your sensibilities and we need your perspectives.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And I would, who's ever listening to this, you could always find me on LinkedIn. And I mentor so many Latinas. I think for me, because it was so traumatic being in rooms where we were not in there, and this is like the early 2000s, I think that a lot of it is for me. I think my life mission has become to become a teacher and a mentor to whoever comes my way. I do believe that it's important for Latinas to be in tech.
Yeah.
I mean, tech is moving health forward. I mean, the things that are happening, it's in so many verticals like fintech,
Mm,
marketing tech, like there's so many things that are happening. Tech is, especially with AI right now. And
mhm.
my sister right now, she's in health tech. She's actually a data person. She does public health. And she has a lot of research papers and stuff like that. And so I just need more Latinas to just I know you're going to deal with a lot of backlash and battles and blockers and, challenges, but
Mhm.
just know that there's a village here that wants to support you. Because I think for me, what's my Red Bull, what's my monster, my energy drink is literally going to summits and seeing Latinas that are doing the thing. That is my
Beautiful.
Red Bull.
I love it. I love it. And it's a lot better on your body, by the way, than the actual stuff. So good for
Yeah.
you. Okay, so we're going to leave it here. I'm going to link
Mhm.
to Latinas in Tech. And thank you so much, Lourdes, for what you're doing and for sharing your wisdom today.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Take care.
All right. Bye.